Hi, my name is Jim. I'm a narcissist. I have narcissistic personality disorder. Making these videos really for anybody that thinks they may have this disorder. Maybe they've been diagnosed, or maybe you think someone you know or care about has this disorder, or someone you know or care about, you're a victim, because this disorder does a lot of damage, a lot. When I first started researching, that's really the only information I could find was for victims, and rightfully so. People with this disorder, we leave a lot in our wake. We do a lot of damage. I have a couple other videos just to kind of let you know what they're about. The first one is the symptoms of this disorder that I don't identify with, because it's very important that you're not going to be able to identify with all of them. I also have another one where I go through and it talks about how I discovered that I have this disorder and how I came to be diagnosed by a professional, and then another one's just an introduction. My goal is I'm going to kind of go through some stuff in the past through these videos until I eventually get to the future and the present, and then what I do is I journal, keeping track of my successes and my failures. And what I want to do is then probably maybe once a week just be accountable, and have a weekly video where I go through my week of successes and failures. But today, what I want to talk about is manipulation, and that's a big one. It's a big one with this disorder. It really is. It really, really is. So, only the person that has it can truly know whether you're doing it consciously or unconsciously. But manipulation, again, is huge. So I'll share a personal story, right? I was in a relationship with the love of my life. I mean, you could reincarnate me 1 trillion times over, and I'll never experience anything like this with another human being. And of course, I then came to find out that I have this disorder. And we were texting, and one of the things that I started to acknowledge is that there's a lot of things I may be doing and manipulating without even realizing it. And let me give you an example. So I was trying to reconcile. I was trying to get her back. And at that point, if you're not familiar, things like hoovering, future faking, and if you don't know what they are, hoovering, let me take a minute and explain that to you. Man, greatest thing you'll ever experience in the world is someone with narcissistic personality disorder that's trying to hoover you. Oh my God, if they are, you are... that's when we're trying to suck you in, right? And we do this in a lot of different ways. This is how I do it, right? I do this with people that I want to like me, right? So they're going to be like friends and family of someone that I care about, right? And their acceptance is important, and I do everything to make them like me. I make myself just the greatest person ever, right? It's awesome. There are so many people out there that will tell you that I am the most phenomenal person they've ever met, and I'm amazing, right? Because that's exactly what I wanted you to think. That's exactly what I did. She actually shared with me that one time a person she knew said, Jim and Daisha were in the room, and I heard Jim's real voice. He had never heard my real voice before, because I was doing, oh, you're going to be so awesome, and I'm going to get you this, and everything about me was fake, because I was faking who I was to try to get him to like me, right? And he didn't even get the real voice. Man, that hit home when she shared that, that was the first time he had heard my real voice, because I had never used that real voice with him. So that's hoovering, right? We're trying to get you. We're trying to suck you in, and we can do that also. Like if we hoover someone we care about, we suck them in. Then we do something to push them away, because That's our disorder. That's what we do. And then when they're away, what do? We hoover them right back, right? And now some other things come in while we're hoovering, right? We're future faking. We're telling you about how awesome and amazing things are. Think about like the person that physically abuses someone. Oh no, I'm never going to hit you again. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be like, remember when we first met? That first month is awesome. Also, I call it honeymooning. Right? So, hey, this is going to be the great phase and everything's going to be awesome. It's going to be just spectacular. There's not going to be anything bad. I'm going to be perfect every second of the day, right? And that does happen, right? You do get the honeymoon phase, right? It's not just me future faking, right? For the beginning, but then my disorder is like, whoa, we got exactly what we wanted. They're back. They're knee deep in this. And now we just do whatever we want and treat you as terrible as we want. That's because the MPD is back in charge. Acknowledging you have this disorder, right? Working with a therapist is going to definitely give you the tools you need to be able to meet the challenges of not letting that happen. These people don't deserve to be treated like that, right? And we need to not treat them like that, right? And we need to learn how to not treat them like that. You're gonna make me cry. You're gonna make me cry, right? Because I've done a lot of damage. I have, and I'm very regretful for the people I've hurt and the damage I've caused. So all of these combined, right? But here's the thing: do we know we're doing it, or is it unconscious, right? So I will give you an example. I'm trying to reconcile with this girl because, again, the love of my life. So at that point, my mind is like, hey, let's not even just talk about the relationship and who loves who and, the bad stuff that happened. Like, sex was always amazing. Let's just meet somewhere for a weekend and just go crazy, right? Just put everything, all that hard stuff, that emotion and all, put all that aside and just go have fun. Let's go get a hotel for a weekend somewhere, in a neutral place and just have like a weekend of sex. And in my mind, it made perfect sense. It really did. And the MPD talks to you, right? Remember in my other video I talked about I liken it to being a schizophrenic. I mean, your mind's sitting there and it's telling you, Jim, this makes complete sense, right? Sex detaches all the other stuff. Sex was always, never an issue, right? All of this makes sense, right? This just makes sense. Then you go ahead, you post that as a, hey, let's do a sex weekend. And your response is, why would you try to manipulate me into feeling something I don't? And at that point, that hit hard, because now I'm questioning, was I trying to manipulate? So I start looking into it. And man, the stuff I found out's insane, right? Of course, everybody knows sex pops endorphins, right? You know what I mean? So now you got the person all bubbly and happy, they're getting they're high off of that drug. Yeah, is that manipulation? Maybe not. But you start to delve into some other things. Science can verify that sex can inhibit certain memories, bad memories. Let me say that again. If you have sex with an ex, they literally are releasing chemicals in their brain to stop them from remembering all that bad, terrible stuff you did to them. Now, here's the question. Does my mind know this? And is it literally unconsciously trying to trick her into doing something that will, again, manipulate her into feeling something she doesn't? I don't know. If it's unconscious, I don't have that answer. If it's conscious, I know. I know what I do, right? If nobody's looking, right, and I punch a little baby, I knew I punched that baby, right? I know. I'm conscious. I did it. Bam! I beat that little up. I know I did it, right? But if it's unconscious, I don't know. I don't know. My mind's telling me, hey, Jim, no, this all makes sense, right? Is my mind lying to me? It lies to me a lot. That's the one thing I'm learning from this disorder, is this thing F's with me a lot. It really does. It gets in there and it tells me all the wrong stuff, like 90% of the time. I have learned from this disorder, I gotta not listen to this thing 99.99% of the time, because it's crazy, right? It's giving me all kinds of bad information. Does it know what it's doing? Let me give you an example. The brain knows stuff that we can't even fathom that it knows, right? One of the most shocking things I think I've ever come across in like my entire life. I think I was watching like a documentary about opioid addiction, and it is staggering. Like, through the opioid addiction, how many times these just like well-off people, you know what I mean, got addicted to opioids. They got an injury or whatever, right? And the next thing you know, they can't get their opioids anymore for whatever reason. And they become heroin addicts. And you're looking at these people that are driving around like SUV Mercedes and stuff like that. Next thing you know, they're in a back alley buying heroin, booting up. And you're like, what is going on? Their brain knew, hey, I'm not transferring one drug for another. That heroin is just like this opioid. It's almost identical. I didn't know that. But after I saw this documentary, I was like, no way. The person's brain knew that. So did my brain know that whole weekend was just to manipulate that poor girl into thinking and feeling something she didn't? I don't know. It eats me alive that it might. Manipulation. Man, that's what we do. Whether we know we do it or we don't. And I'm going to take it one step further, and this is even more heartbreaking. So this disorder, we always want to kind of make ourselves the victim, right? And you got to watch out for that. I mean, that's tough, all right? So it was pretty early on, and again, I'm trying to reconcile, and so at that point, I reached out and I wanted to apologize. I wanted to be like, hey, I've done some research, into the, and I think I may have unconsciously been trying to manipulate you. And man, she came back with fire, and I wasn't ready for it. And she's like, I don't know why you think that's better than conscious manipulation. Unconscious is even worse. So I started thinking about it. I'm like, man, the girl right. I mean, she ding, 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 ding. She hit it, right? There ain't no holding back. So let's look at that. If you're conscious, you're doing it. You know you're doing it. Let's go back to effing that baby up, right? When nobody's looking, I punch babies. Can't punch babies. They arrest you. They put you in jail, right? So I want to stop. I know I'm doing it, right? I see a baby. I can start to work on, hey, I don't want to punch that baby, right? I know I'm doing it. I can work on not doing it. What the hell do you do when your mind's doing it and you don't know that even if your mind's doing it? That's why manipulation's worse, right? Unconscious manipulation, I apologize. Unconscious manipulation is worse than conscious manipulation. So if you're not even sure if you're doing it, how the hell do you stop it, right? So that's what she meant, and that's why it's a challenge. So again, if you haven't seen the other videos, I have a degree in psychology, but forget that. I'm an auditor. I don't practice. I'm not a licensed professional, right? All I'm doing is giving you my firsthand experience with this disorder, what I've seen, right? And, hoping that somebody gets some benefit out of it in some way, shape, or form. But what do we do? So, of course, one of the things I do with my therapist is we work on identifying behaviors that are challenging, right? That present challenges, that may cause damage, that ruin relationships, that cause pain to others. I mean, whatever the consequence may be, we want to identify them, right? We want to stop them before we do them, and we want to be able to think through options. So let's walk through that scenario, and I will walk through what me and my mind would do. Okay, so let's walk through that again. So let's say I'm in the same situation. I'm like, man, we're talking, and this is just really weird, and I mean, it's tough. It's, and my mind says, hey, sex was always easy. It was always great. Just invite her to a weekend somewhere in neutral territory, and for no emotion, no nothing else. Let's just, So before I would send that text or call or ask, at that point, what I will now do is I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna think, wait a second, is this possibly an attempt at manipulation, right? And I'm gonna think through a couple of things. First, I'm gonna think, Jim, has your mind ever lied to you before, right? Because my mind's like, this is the greatest idea ever. You need to do this. This is smart, right? This is genius. Do this, right? Has your mind ever lied to you before? That answer is always yes. Always yes. I have narcissistic personality disorder. Yes. So that's first. Then I'll ask myself, is there a chance that your mind's lying to you this time? Oh, yes. That's always, again, I have narcissistic personality disorder. Yes. I check both of those boxes. That's a yes to every time I ever ask my mind that question. Then I start asking some other questions, right? Do we know it? Is this manipulation? Maybe the answer is no, right? I don't. I'm not sure if this is I don't know. Does that mean we do it? No, we ask more questions. Is there a chance that this is manipulation? Well, I said I don't know. So yeah, there is a chance this is manipulation. Have there been situations in the past where you may have gone through with what you're about to go through and it turned out poorly? Oh dear Lord, yes. Could this situation be like that? It may be. It might be. I ask myself things like, can you think of a time where you chose not to initiate that invite and you had a positive result? Man, that one's gold right there, right? And I follow that up with, have you had situations where you did actually put out that request and it ended poorly? That's not always a yes or no answer, because maybe it hasn't happened before. So I always then come with the question, if you do put this out and it ends poorly, what's that look like? That's the tough one. That's and then of course, is it worth it to potentially damage something? No, not at all. And that's what I do. And here's the thing. I know you hear me asking like 10, 20 questions, and you're like, man, take you like an hour, dude, right? But like I said, those first two, they done. I asked myself those like a couple of times, and I was like, I don't even ask them anymore, because I know the answer is yes. You know what I mean? I'm moving on. Bam, 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 right? And the more you do it, the more you're able to identify and start asking yourself these questions, if you choose to, because this is what I do, and this is what my therapist and I have worked on, and this is what's working for me, right? I know I'm just a few months into my wellness plan, right? But this is, man, the changes I have seen, the positives that I have seen come out of implementing this kind of stuff is off the charts. It's off the charts. Not everything's going to be a success. Not everything's going to be a win, right? It's not, right? It's going to happen. And I tell you, it's not easy. Like I said in the other video, you know what's easy? What's easy is letting this disorder run your life. Being mean and terrible to people and losing every relationship and just succumbing to it. That's easy. But that's going to keep you down here, right? You don't even want to be here. You don't want to be at the middle. You want to be up here, right? And I'm not saying like I'm going to run the world one day, damn it, I want to have a fucking good life. And I have fucked shit up. And I've been down here for most of it, right? And I tried to find a way to get here, do the bare minimum, and I bet you did too. Like if you got narcissistic personality disorder like I do, at some point you're like, man, I just want to do whatever it takes just to slide by, and that's where you get the middle. I will share. I'll share. One of the things that my ex talked about was me giving her blanket apologies, and she is so right. You know, she'd get mad, and I'm sorry. I know. For what? In my mind, I'm sitting there, I don't know, nor do I really care. I just want you to not be mad at me, and I want to go back to like us hugging and being happy. The middle, right? What do you need to do? What are you upset about, right? Well, I'm upset about your snide little snarky comments that you didn't even realize you were making, you know, because they're like underhanded jokes that really hurt my feelings. How do we get up here? You know, I realized that I thought I was saying these things as jokes, but I wasn't. They're very hurtful. I'm sorry. I didn't mean these to hurt you, but that doesn't take away my responsibility. I shouldn't have said them, and I'm gonna do better. That's how we get up here, right? Now, if you don't have empathy, that's tough, right? Because, I mean, you gotta know that these comments are hurting people, right? And all you're doing is that narcissistic personality disorder is trying to make you feel good about yourself by knocking somebody else down, right? All right, that's been a lot today. I'm a little emotionally withdrawn. We hit some pretty intense stuff. We did. So, yeah. Whether you're doing it consciously or unconsciously, if you're the one that has this disorder, or you think you may have this disorder, or you're living with somebody with this disorder, or you know somebody with this disorder, that manipulation is no joke, right? So be careful when they start hoovering, right? It's pretty common that the belief is if you're in a situation with someone with narcissistic personality disorder, that the only way to deal with it is to cut off all connection. Block them in every way, shape, or form, and don't let them in, because they're just going to try to hoover. You need to be able to identify it. You need to be able to identify fake futuring. You need to be able to identify the honeymoon phase, right? All of it. It's just what we do, right? But for those out there, and this isn't going to be a large percentage, but those out there that acknowledge you have this disorder and you want to be on a journey of wellness, fight. I mean, you're not going to win every battle, but you got to get control. You got to get control. You got to stop letting this disorder make those terrible decisions. You got to stop damaging other lives. You got to stop manipulating, right?